Oh, hello. Welcome to Skogknits, where I talk about the crafty things that I've been working on. If you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you've been here before, then welcome back. Thank you for watching my video, and I hope you find what I talk about today interesting. For those of you who don't know, my name is Christopher, and I am a knitter, a quilter, a cross-stitcher. I dabble in different crafts here and there, depending on what fancies me at the moment. And lately, I've really been having the urge to do some beading, but you guys can't see it now, but this studio is in such a disarray right now. I mean, the other day my husband walked in and he said, your room is beginning to look like a hoarder's room. I guess that's his subtle way of saying I need to clean up in here. It is sort of a mess. I mean, I was working on a quilting project back in February, and the way I work is I like to have all of my materials and supplies at the ready so that I can just kind of start and power through, or as I get on a roll, I just keep going, and I don't like to have to stop if I need something. And what happened this time was that I was working on a quilt, which I don't have anything to show today, but I will be start picking that back up again shortly. But I was working on a quilt and I was kind of designing it on the fly. I had a vision in my head and I started towards that vision, and somewhere along the lines, plans changed. And not for the bad. I mean, not completely going off the rails and, needing to throw out what I was working on and had to start over, but just it started moving in a different direction as things do. And, so there's different ways that I approach design. One way is to sit down, sketch things out, do a storyboard or sketch out the concepts, come up with a couple of ideas, and then narrow it down, refine the design and have everything laid out in a plan, plan it out. So you kind of have a map of where to go and, just kind of get things done in an efficient way. Another way I like to design is I have an idea. I sometimes get impatient because I want to see how it comes together and how it looks real time. So, basically I like to do mock-ups. And I always figure when I work that way, you might as well do with what I have in my mind rather than doing a test, because if it turns out good, then I can just be started already. But the problem with that, and that's what I did, the challenge with that sometimes is that as the process is moving along, directions change, new ideas come into play. So anyways, that's what happened. And my latest vision, I didn't have enough fabric to move forward, so I needed to stop, order the fabric, and then wait for it to come, which I did. But in doing so, I had a challenge in finding the fabric that I had in mind. So that took me a while. That took a couple of weeks. So that process wasn't as quick as I had hoped, and the fabric came in maybe a week ago. In that corner of the room, I have I just left quilting supplies out, as it were, and it's sort of a mess. I kind of like, as I'm cutting things, unfolding things, piecing things together, trimming things off, they're just kind of there. I don't clean up at the end of the day, which is maybe a bad habit. And I do admire, who was I watching? I was watching somebody else on YouTube, quilting channel, that they said that they straighten up at the end of every day, and they use a lint roller on their ironing board to pick up all of the loose threads, and so that the next day everything is clean and he has a fresh start. And I thought, I'd like to work that way, but I guess it's just not in me. Anyways, back on topic. So it's a mess there. I had removed the storage unit that I had kept all of my yarn scraps in, and in doing so I had to empty that out, and I just put everything on the floor. So that's all on the floor, all of my yarn scraps from the last 20 years. That's how long I've been knitting. Yeah, 20 years. And then I have my pile of shame, which is a term that I picked up from Crafting Kirsty. Thank you, Crafting Kirsty, if you're watching. Which is a term used for all of the long-term works in progress that have, either because they're so started so long ago that they have been forgotten about, like this project, which I will be talking about next, or things that I've just cast aside because I didn't like the way they turned out, and I just stopped and never got around to frogging or deciding if I wanted to continue and try to work it out. And then I have some unfinished, and by unfinished I don't mean not completed. They're completed, but they now need to be finished either in frames or some other way, cross-stitch projects, and then some fabric haul on this side of the room on the floor. So yeah, it does look kind of like, luckily there's nowhere for me to pile things in the shelving units behind me. Otherwise that would look like a mess too. But that was kind of a long-winded story. So now, funny thing is, this first knitting project that I want to share with you today, I finished a pair of socks. And guess what? It's in the same colorway as the quilt. Here's the sock. I guess I need to move back a bit so you can see the whole thing. Maybe do it this way. So these are socks for me, and I am a size men's 8 foot. So these are size 8 socks. So these socks I started 5 weeks ago. I started with this swatch. And I call it a swatch. It's not really a swatch. It was really the sock that I was starting on. I started this 5 weeks ago in our first virtual men's knitting night. That was held by Zoom. And it was hosted by Kevin and Ray of Needles at the Ready. Anyway, I started this sock during that event. And, because it's Zoom, it's the first time that I've met these guys, all the guys that were on the Zoom. I kind of was knitting mindlessly. So I got down to about here by the end of the knit night. And, I put it down and, had dinner and went to bed and, just continued with my evening. And it wasn't until the next day that I picked the sock back up to work on it. And I looked at it and I thought, this toe is awfully pointy. I don't like the proportions of these stripes. And it was a little too small. So I needed to have a few more stitches going in the round to get to the right size. So I started ripping it out. I was knitting this by carrying the yarn. Since this is only 2 colors and these are only 4 rows of each colorway, of each color, I decided that I was just going to carry the yarn and carry the yarn up as I was going. So I was wrapping them on the way up. And in the finished sock, when I started over, I decided that I didn't like, because I didn't like the proportions of those, I made the stripes thicker. So these are 8-row stripes, 8-row stripes. And I added another color. Well, I added the toe color as part of the round. So the original didn't have that. It was just going to be the pink and red. But it sort of had a Pippi Longstocking kind of vibe. So that's why I decided to add the third color. Well, because I added the third color, 1, and the size of the stripes were now 8 rows. That's 2. I had it in my mind that I didn't want to carry the 2 strands of yarn up for each repeat. I thought that would be too much, and it was going to cause a noticeable ridge on the inside that I would feel when I'm wearing the sock. So I changed yarns at every stripe. So guess what I have to do now? That's going to be fun, don't you think? Sorry, I keep getting this reversed. So that's going to be fun on both socks. I have all those. Well, I don't have all the ends to weave in. I just need to double check them to make sure they're secure. Because what I did do was I did wrap the ends as I started, as I changed each color. And I don't know if you can see how I did the wrap. Yeah, you can't really see that too well. But I wrapped the ends, so all I need to do is make sure they're secure and then snip them. There may be a few that I missed, but I think for the most part I got them all. But about the sock, these socks were knit toe up. So I started here. I used the Judy's Magic Cast On 2 needles. I knit them, I increased every other row on both sides until I got to the right length, and then I started the striping. I knit these on 2.5 millimeters needles using Magic Loop. I used the same color for the toes and the heel. And then I used, I just followed the sequence of colors and ended with the red for the cuff. And the cuff is a 2x1 rib. I went down 2 needle sizes for the ribbing. I used a 2.0 millimeter, which is the US 0. It's just a basic vanilla sock with the typical slip stitch heel. Oh, and the yarn I used. So the red and the pink are Trilogy Yarns Plush Base, which is an MCN. It's 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. The pink is called Peppermint Bark, and it has pink, white, and red in it. The red is also by Trilogy Yarns on the plush, the same plush base, which is an MCN. The colorway is called Wild Strawberry, and it's coming out. The lighting is like making it super intense red. It's more like a tomatoey, kind of a warm tomatoey red. Yeah, it's coming out super blue undertone in this lighting. And the white is an old, I'm not sure if this dyer is still dyeing, but it's Fiddle-Knits Fibers Diatonic. The colorway is called Bowl of Cherries, and it's a white with red and black speckles. So here are the colors together. When I was living in LA, there was a knitting store or yarn shop, my local yarn shop, which was just down the street from where I worked. I could have walked there during my lunchtime, called Amano Yarn. Is no longer there and no longer in business. One of the partners from Amano has her own shop called The Knitting Tree in, I don't remember the city, but it's in Southern California, in LA, the LA area. Anyways, from Amano Yarn, I picked up this book by Jane Ellison. It's called The Queensland Collection. It's book number 9. I'm not really familiar with the series of books, so I don't know what the other 8 previous books look like, but this is a collection of men's knitting patterns. Sweaters. The first project pictured is a hat and scarf. Mostly sweaters, vests, hat. Oh no, there's a couple. But anyways, so the project that I've knitted from here is this one called George. And I knit this one. I should pull it out. It's the first sweater I actually made my husband. Before he was my husband, we were boyfriends. And I know the saying goes, never make your boyfriend a sweater. But I did, and look what happened. He's now my husband. But I should pull it out. I should go pull it out and show it to you. Okay, so I went and got the sweater. Sorry, I'm trying to find a good way of showing this. And it is purple with a blue, which you can see. Yeah, this lighting in here is, well, I guess that's pretty, yeah, no. It's purple with a aqua blue stripe. And it's a long sweater. Cardigan. Sorry, this is hard to see. I should probably maybe put it on. You can see what it looks like. But it pretty much looks like it does in the model, except for it's not as tight fitting as that. Well, the size that I knit isn't as form fitting. You know, that trick that they do in retail stores, and I was going to say Pottery Barn. It's not Pottery Barn. It is Banana Republic. If you ever go shopping at Banana Republic and notice how, oh, that is a very nice fitting blazer, or, you know, that sweater is very nice fitting to the mannequin, right? And you go up to the mannequin and you look at the article of clothing, and they have a binder clip on the back. And to me, that is so misleading because, I get it that there are different cuts of clothing. There's more of the athletic cut. There's more of the football build. Well, see, now I'm making up terms, but I call it the football build because, if you have a football build body, you're not going to have the same cut of a sports coat as someone like me who needs a fitted or slim cut. Otherwise, it looks like I'm just wearing, a garbage bag. But it's misleading when stores have nice fitting clothing on the mannequin, only to find out that it's not a good fit or good cut on the mannequin. It is binder clipped in the back. I don't know. I just find that ridiculous. And it's so obvious when you can clearly see the binder clip. So if you want your clothes to fit like that on the mannequin, then you should sell clothes that fit like that in your store, or get more size inclusive mannequins that fit the clothes that you actually make and sell, so that it's a good representation of your products. Okay, sorry, another tangent. It must be the day, something in the air. Sorry. Okay, back to that sweater. So the sneak peek I gave you was another start to that same sweater that I started. What yarn is this? I think I have this in my Ravelry, and it feels like a cashmere blend. This might be a Cash Soft, might be the yarn. In these two colorways, this is sort of an army green and it's not really an ivory, it's not off-white. It might be like a stone color, because it looks like a cream here, but in reality it has kind of a green undertone to it. Anyways, that's the yarn I was using for the contrast. And I knit the back panel. And that's as far as I got. And I remember knitting this on a family trip with my in-laws. We were somewhere in France. Got an Airbnb in a rural area of France, South France. I can't remember the city, but I remember we were there for like a week, and so I had this thing. This is what I started on that trip, and it is the back panel to that same sweater, George. But I don't know what I was thinking, because it seems awfully long for me. And I remember this is for me because I already knit my husband his. And surprisingly, I think it's like a good 4 to 5 inches too long. And if there's going to be any stretch, it's going to stretch in the length, because this is a heavy sweater. It's a worsted weight. So anyways, I brought this out because it is in the pile of shame, and it is not something that I'm going to continue. I am going to frog this because I know I have sweater quantity of this yarn, so I might as well salvage this so that I can use it in another project, right? And it's super. No, I was going to say it's super soft, but it's soft. It's not super soft. It's soft. So what else I've been working on besides those socks? I continue to work on my seamless raglan using the recipe, Elizabeth Zimmerman's recipe for seamless raglan, if you recall. So it is now you know, sleeves, done, done. This is a bottom-up sweater, bottom-up recipe. Start from the bottom, work your way up, working the round, attach join the sleeves on both sides, and then continue working around to work the yoke, and then you do your decreases to get your raglan, both sides. And this is knit with sock yarn a few years ago, maybe 6 years ago. Knit a worsted weight seamless raglan using Elizabeth Zimmerman's recipe, and that one fits me perfectly. In fact, I think I was wearing that in my last video, Madeline Tosh sweater. And I took notes, and when it came time to knit this sweater, I took those notes. So based on my gauge with the sock weight yarn, I calculated, based on my notes from my previous worsted weight version, all of the measurements for this one. And admittedly, I am a terrible note taker because it wasn't very detailed notes in my notebook. And I must not be that good at math because my calculations came out wonky. This sweater is very ill-fitting. So, for example, as you can see, so if I hold the sweater up, the underarms are about here is where it should be. So this is about right for where the shoulders are. But look at where the neckline falls. Okay, so, and look how wide this is. It's to here. The opening is to here, and the neck is already here. My first thought was, oh, I can salvage the neckline and say, use that as a kind of a design feature and just have a wider neck opening. But if I was to do that and I started the ribbing out, it's going to be like a turtleneck here and then opened out to here, which is completely weird. So or B, C, I don't even know where I was going or what I'm on, but the proportions of this thing is just completely wonky. Not only that, but the sleeves are too long, the body's too long, which I can live with because the sleeves are, they come to about here, right? That is way too long. And it's just ill-fitting from here, starting the whole yoke area. It's just weird. So, needless to say, I'm going to pull these off of the needles and repurpose this yarn because I love these colorways. And that's another thing. Now that I'm looking at it, I don't really like how chunky the proportions of these blocks are with the brown. I feel like the brown, I don't know, it's just not as elegant as I would have liked the striping to be. So overall, I'm okay with it. It took me a while to get this done, but I'd rather see this yarn put to good use because I love all of the colorways. So I definitely want to use them. So that's that. I have some frogging to do and some relaxing of yarn to do so that I can repurpose the yarn of both of those projects. Okay, so one last thing that I've been working on is this, I'm gonna, sorry about that noise. I'm gonna pull this up here on my iPad. Another project that I've been working on, or that I played with, is the Optic Blanket by Pearl Soho. And I did a swatch using these yarns. These yarns were gifted to me. Oh, no. This yarn was gifted to me. It's an Adrian Vittadini. Merino, 55 merino, 35 microfiber, 10% cashmere. It's a really nice yarn. It's a worsted weight yarn. Adrian Vittadini. And this black yarn is a Zara yarn, Zara Merino, which is more of a DK weight. So it's a little lighter in weight than the Adrian Vittadini. And I made a swatch, and by swatch, I guess 1 square of the blanket. And I like it. I mean, it's a fun blanket. I mean, it's a fun knit because you cast on the outside edge, and then you start working in the round, and you slip and decrease to get this kind of X shape. So you end up in the middle here. So this is where you ended. You bind off and you kind of tighten the circle, kind of like a hat. I mean, it's basically like a hat, but it's because you decrease, and in the 4 corners you get a square instead of a circle. But there's a but. But I am not enjoying this Zara yarn. This Zara yarn is I don't even know what you call it. I mean, it has a funny twist to it in that when you poke your needle, if you happen to pierce the yarn, it forms a hole. A hole forms. And a hole, it's not like, like this is a standard twisted yarn, right? This is a standard twisted yarn. So if you poke a hole, and then it's plied by being twisted, right? So you have these multiple strands. It's not really cooperating, but you get these multiple strands that are twisted together to form this one weight of yarn, right? This one, I can't figure out how it is because it's more like, it looks like it's coiled, but not spun in the traditional way. Anyways, it's just a very funky coil. All that to say, I don't enjoy working with that yarn, which is the black, right? So the way that you continue this, so here are the photos of the blanket, the project. And this is a free pattern on Pearl Soho. Where's the photo? There you go. So here you work in a square. You start off with your first square. And then you pick up stitches. I'm trying to find it now. You pick up stitches along one edge, and then you cast on one edge, and you cast on for the other 3 edges, and then you connect here to start working in the round. And then that's how you attach. So by the next one, you start by working your second square, second block, third block, and then until you get a row, and then you go over and you start connecting. And then once you get to the second block of the second row, you pick up edges of one side and then the other side, and then you cast on two sides, and then you start. So basically, you just keep casting on the edges to connect them, so there's no sewing in the end, which I really like that idea, which I'm doing on another blanket that I'm working on, which is, okay, so needless to say, I'm not enjoying the yarn that I'm using here. I do like this blanket. I might or might not restart it using a different yarn. I'm definitely not using that black. I'm going to have to donate that black yarn to someone else because I don't want to use it. That's what I've been working on. So, because I mentioned it, I want to show you the other blanket that I've been working on. It's a work in progress. It is in the pile of shame, but it is not a forgotten, unfinished project. It's a long-term work in progress. I'm going to pull that out and be right back. Okay, so this blanket project that I am going to pull out and continue working on is based on a pattern from Knit Simple magazine by Vogue Knitting, the fall 2007 issue. I mean, this is really old, 2007, right? And it is based on this bag, the Modular Squad bag. But I'm not making a bag, I'm making a blanket following that pattern. And here is the blanket. So the concept is the same as the, I mean, and this is how far I am with it. I have 4 rows of hexagons done. 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. And you cast on, you basically pick up, like here, you'd pick up stitches along this edge, along this edge, so you have 2 edges there, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 more edges to get your hexagon, and then you start knitting in the round, and you decrease in the 6 corners to get the hexagon. And the yarn I'm using is Noro yarn, Silk Garden, in the colorway 249. 249, Silk Garden. And this is a 45 silk, 45 mohair, 10% lamb's wool. And yeah, I mean, and I think each hexagon is about 70% of the ball. So, and you see all these different colors that the hexagons that I'm getting? This is all the same colorway. So that this many colors are in these balls. And I'm just getting different colors based on where I'm starting. If I'm starting from the outside of the ball, or if I'm starting from the middle of the ball. And I'm just kind of randomly varying it from either end when I pick up a new ball. So I have enough yarn. Well, I shouldn't say that because I didn't. Here I am again, not a good planner, right? I didn't calculate how big of a blanket I'm going to get based on how much yarn I have. And I think I got this yarn at, I want to say, the Stitches West event one year in the early teens, 20 teens. and I bought a bag. So I have one bag, which is 10. No, I bought 2 bags. 2 bags. So I have 20 skeins of this colorway in the same dye lot. And I'm just going to keep going until I run out of yarn, and that's how big the blanket's going to be. So I brought it back out. What did I buy that magazine for? In 2007. There must have been something in here that I wanted to make in 2007, because I'm sure I wouldn't have bought this magazine for the bag, because I don't think I would have immediately thought that I wanted to. Oh, I remember. What's for these baby patterns? My niece was being born one year. When was that? 16 now? 2021? It couldn't have been for her because she's too old for these baby sweaters. Somebody was having a baby. Because look, there's 2 more patterns. So cute, right? The sweaters. And I ended up knitting this wrap one. Whose baby was it? This one. Oh, it was my other niece. My brother's daughter. Okay, yeah. That's what I knit this for. So that's why I bought the magazine. And then I saw that and I thought, oh, I want to make that. I think I bought the Silk Garden yarn first. No, I don't know. Anyways, I can't remember that far back. It's too long ago. But what I've been doing is, I take out the blanket, I knit, 1, 2, or 3 hexagons, and then I put the blanket back away, and then it sits there for a year, and then I take it out. So that's why it's taking me a long time. And this is not the only blanket I have in the works. I'm not going to show or talk about those other 2 blankets that I have in process today, because this video is already becoming kind of long. But yeah, same thing with those other blankets. I work on them a little bit, and then I put them away for a year, bring them back out. Eventually I'll have them. And my in-laws did say, when they saw my second YouTube video, the Parade of Quilts, they hadn't seen my whips, my knitting blanket whips. But even then, they already made a comment about how I'm going to have so many blankets. It's true. The thing is, I love the process of making them. And in the end, if I get tired of it, a blanket is something that's easy to give away. I can donate it. Several places that will take blankets or quilts. Sweaters is a little different. I guess I could still donate sweaters, but I have a harder time justifying the cost and the time of donating a sweater that I made if I've never used it. I don't know. I just feel it's easier for me to give away a blanket or a scarf. I don't know. It just seems weird, right? I mean, it's the same thing. But anyways, that's all I have to show you today. Thank you if you've made it this far. Thank you for sticking around to the end. Otherwise, that's all for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.